Thanks a lot, Shahid. Really appreciate it. Welcome everyone to the panel discussion. As Shahid mentioned, this is the panel discussion where we would be discussing how does the AI, generative AI combination with configuration management is transforming the industries. I'm short introduction. I'm Rajesh Charasya, Associate Vice President with Infosys. My responsibility is core and digital engineering across Europe, and we work with multiple customers in the configuration lifecycle management area. With me, I have a very esteemed panel. You heard all of them earlier in the different sessions. I have on my left Jens from the MA and Energy Solutions, Henrik, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for the Configit, Jan, who is a partner at PwC, and Will, who is basically the CIO and SVP at Premier Tech Company. So let me start the discussion with Jens. I will start, before we jump into the AI and GenAI, let me start with a simple question. You presented a very detailed topic about how MAN Solutions is moving on to the configuration management. So how does the demands of customization for configuration management is met by MAN Solutions? Like in a very short, before we jump into the AI aspects of that.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. You probably recognize from my presentation that customization is something that is written on our T-shirt from the day we were born, right? That's our basic set off, and we need to embrace that also in our configuration strategy. So no use in saying that now we will suddenly force the customers into a fixed scenario where they can choose from these three options and then to go. No, we need to make sure that our definitions follow along with those dimensions. I mean, no need in buying a tailor-made suit if you cannot fit in your belly.
Yes.
He will count on you having 2 legs and 2 arms, but there will be scalable issues, and we just have to guess where do these customizations kick in.
Thanks. I think I'll now bring the AI. Will, you have written the book on how the AI can be taken for business strategy. If I try and ask, what's your experience with AI and technology? AI technologies in Premier Tech, as well as based on the book you co-authored, and how can it enhance the configuration management?
Yeah, I think it's really, at this point in time, there's really no point in assuming that there's a replacement. What AI can really help us is to enhance the solutions, to have an assistant. I very much like the metaphor, the image Henrik has created. So it's like we ask a good friend, so I have this solution, but you know what, I'm not really sure. Maybe there are other solutions which could maybe fit. Maybe there's something completely new I've never thought about. But a friend who has a good, solid data background so that we can enhance really the way we interact and the way we see things. And very often, if you have worked in a specific industry, you often have a silo in your head how to do things. And AI right now can really help us to create this interaction, this decision support kind of mindset to see, okay, this is like my way, but there may be 2-3 other ways, and what makes most sense for me and what's maybe something I've not thought about. So it's really kind of a decision support approach, which I see for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And thereafter, we just don't know what will happen.
Very well summarized. I think that's where it is going. Jan, if I can ask a follow-up question on that. You explained like how does we should go on that. If we take into consideration AI as part of the CLM programs or initiatives, whether it's from sales, engineering, overall, what are the key elements you would recommend to be considered for such program?
I think AI is always good looking into the back rearview mirror. So it can summarize the past and the complexity I was talking about in my presentation before. So I think this is really a powerful approach to bring together and summarize what you did. It's not good in cleaning up, because that needs human interaction, needs strategic decisions. And that was the other point I was making. Clean up your house before you install a software. You should not really see it as an IT project. It's a strategic transformation approach, and that needs getting all those guys together, defining what you want to do in the future, And you can use AI as a supporting tool to streamline your thoughts and maybe even generate some ideas, taking it from a good friend, but not taking it too serious. But then you need management to say, that's the way we're going to go. That's the product line we're going to cut. Here we want to standardize, as you said, Willem, before, and then go for it. And that's where I can help, but don't overestimate it.
Henrik, I'll ask you same question, but from the hat of a solution provider. Like this is more from the services, but as a solution provider, as a Configit strategy, chief strategy officer. So what do you say? Because companies are embarking on the digital transformation, and with the kind of business challenges, because reducing the time to market, and at the same time improving the configurations available, whether we like it or not, but that's the way market demands. Reduce time, but giving more options. That's what customers and everybody is expecting. So what is your point of view on how does the customers should go forward on that?
Yeah, so if we sort of look at what AI can help with, I think we've heard already some interesting areas, and I think some of them are quite surprising to me because, originally I was a researcher in an area called AI, 20 years plus back, but you should not say AI because it had very negative connotations. They would laugh you out the room because there's been a lot of hype and over-promising. It didn't get any funding in research. Yes. So we were sort of doing skunk work AI. And out of that came virtual tabulation, which is in fact a symbolic AI technology. So at the time, what came out of that wave of AI was stuff like this virtual tabulation, constraint solvers, algorithms that could solve particular areas of math pretty efficient. That's what came out of AI. Far from the general promises about human intelligence and all that kind of stuff, but that's sort of what came out of it. And we took that technology, and that's what we use in Configit for virtual tabulation. I think the feeling for many years was that you cannot have a computer be creative.
Yes,
it's people who are creative. You talk about creativity in music, in art, and design everywhere. So it's definitely going to be a computer that's going to be creative. And I think the fascinating thing that we've been talking about is that's actually what they're doing.
It's changing. Everything is changing.
That's it. They're just being creative. I mean, and that's what they're best at. They're not extremely. The breakthrough, I should say, they're different. We should be careful with AI. There are many aspects of AI, but the stuff we all generally talk about today is generative AI, because that's where the biggest breakthrough has been with this deep learning algorithms. And the surprising thing is they show something you would normally call creativity. Yes. They come up with things you haven't thought about. So I think there's something there, as you also talked about. Well, that we should try to find a way to use that, come up with new solutions to problems, and just make sure they work, that we somehow can verify or validate that they're right. But let's use that creativity. And they also have a chance of trying to help to find structure.
Yes.
And that might help us in a change project where we need to change processes or find a way of modularizing our products. I think we might find a way where they could help us suggest something, but they're not going to do the job because there are decisions in it, there are trade-offs, and they have this tendency to hallucinate and just invent stuff. So they might come up with suggestions.
We've already seen some examples of that.
There are many entertaining examples of that. Yes. So I think they're great opportunities, but we have to learn how to use them in different phases. And my recommendation was just do some experiments, get some experience with it, get your sort of first-hand knowledge on what it can do or cannot do. Because if I fear a bit, if I don't get first-hand knowledge, I can be a little bit in danger of believing all the hype.
And left behind like you.
Yeah, I mean, you can be left behind, but you can also over-trust what this can do for you. And you see very convincing demos on toy examples, but do they scale to the kind of problems we have in manufacturing, right? So there's some of this caution, big opportunities, but also this caution. So I feel like I'd like to try it out, learn myself, what it can do and what the shortcomings are, and then try to find good ways to use it in our business.
Yeah, very well said. Because I think this is where we have seen AI has been, especially GenAI. You mentioned a very important point, because somehow a lot of people assume GenAI as the AI, whereas GenAI is one branch of AI, and because it's very popular with customer, the B2C segment, it's taken as the overall AI, which is not the case, and I think that's where. So I think taking forward from that, maybe I'll come back to AENs. So we spoke about MN energy solutions. There's a lot of activities which you are performing as part of your role and driving the organization to move to zero number. How do you see AI helping you as part of this roadmap? Maybe not immediately, but short term, mid term. How do you see where it can play a pivotal role for
yeah. First of all, there's this that I think the most of the world sees themselves in a fear-love situation with the AI. We fear being in, we fear being out, and so on. Where would we position ourselves? And honestly, being part of the Volkswagen group, that has caused us an additional layer of due diligence and being very careful about that. So we have walked our initial steps very carefully about that. And now I think the general approach is two steps. One is, let's learn to talk AI. And that means that you should not consider it an expert's role only. You should really expand those capabilities on the most simple terms to a broad population in the company, and use those assistant tools like Copilot and Git for coders and so on. There are many tools out there where you don't even have to fear these things. Then there's the other portion where that is solely data-driven, advanced use cases and so on, and we should not have play on only one of those two horses. So I think especially in this area, and also what Henrik mentioned for the configuration life cycle management, I think there's the ability to help us come up with suggestion for modularization before the process. There's the inside the configuration process where it can support whatever user is there, and the afterwards to interpret how did the user behave and how does the most beneficial use cases really run through. Million use cases that can support us here.
Yes, and I can vouch for it. Like in my organization, Infosys, there is a very strong emphasis on making everybody, 330,000 odd people, AI aware. I think that's the first step. Make everybody AI aware, so that you can then start building how many experts you need. Because as long as people are not aware, it's difficult to imagine where it can lead us, right? I think that's the right approach. Jan, coming back to you. There is a lot of, you may mention about fear. So there is a lot of fear, hype about, is AI going to take over? How does so you see a lot of regulatory compliance bodies coming in picture. We had an act, I don't know if it's passed, but initiated in EU recently. So how do you see companies working around this? Like, because it's a balance. You need to follow the compliance, but you at the same time move forward in innovation. So what's your recommendation, suggestion for organizations to look into this? Is there anything which they should consider or think about that?
It's an interesting topic, and regulations are really taking over and growing everywhere. We work a lot in aircraft industry, for example, or medical industry, and they're really getting stuck within those regulations. And the first challenge is to only know about those regulations that are coming up from different areas, and the new ones that arise in new regions and so on. And I think that's the first help that AI can do, just collect what's out there and what's happening. So get transparency about what is there already, what is coming. I think you can use your, I don't know if it's AI, but it's at least bots
yes.
that play into you. So first thing. Second one is to consolidate those requirements and regulations, and to really bring it down, because it's hundreds and thousands of papers that are being created there every day. And I think AI can help us to sort that out and to melt it down to the key facts. To management-like thing, and solicitate those elements that you really have to take care about. And then, as I presented before, I think you need to create this chain of impact. So you need to know exactly where a certain requirement or regulation will hit your product. So what is the impact of the domain of requirements to the domain of product development, maybe industrialization, maybe supply chain. So you need this end-to-end data chain, this overview, to evaluate what is happening. Is it really hurting you? Is it something you have to fight against, or can you simply take it? Maybe, as discussed before, modularization helps to reduce the impact of a certain requirement to a limited area within your product. So all those are mitigation areas, and I think also creating this chain, that's something AI can help as well.
Yes, I think it's a good thought, like to take AI help to prepare for the regulatory compliance needs for the AI, because I think that's where it can go. That's one of the areas where it can definitely augment the activities which needs to be performed. We spoke about this. I'll come back to you, Will. AI is generally always talked about like it's the nirvana, it's the panacea. It will solve all the problems. That's the way it is looked upon right now. But if you look from the industrial organizations, I'm sure there will be some challenges also. So what, in your opinion, are pro and cons for AI implementation or adoption within the industrial companies? Like we know the consumer, it's fine, but from the consumer, so the industrial perspective, what are the pro and cons which you would like to highlight from the AI technologies?
I think the first is really the perspective. I mean, what does AI do? And Henrik framed it quite nicely. It basically transforms data into actionable insights. So that's it. So it's not magic. It's really to help us to get to a state where we can make the better decisions. Now I see really two axes. On the one axis, you have all the things we heard today. Like you have to clean up your data model. You have to think about your processes. You have to think about the applications you already have. You maybe have customized them for a very long time. And in parallel, you have to think about, okay, now if I have a new application with some AI feature, how can I use it in a very efficient way? And how can I drive all the foundation in parallel with the AI usage? And Jan said it very nicely. There are topics you can immediately use. You use Copilot, you use ChatGPT to understand whether there's new compliance requirements somewhere in whatever US. There's things which are completely independent, but then you have your own cooperation with processes, with mindset, with all different things. And I think no one can afford to wait to say, okay, I clean my house first, and then 10 years after I'll take it. I think then the game will be even more difficult. So we have to find the right let's say, balance, setting up foundation at the same time showing that this exists. The word AI awareness is a very good word, but to also say, look, AI is one thing, but you should also be aware that maybe what you should look out, like you need to look out, do we have the right processes? Do we have standardized processes already? Do we have maybe roles which are just missing here? It's very good to think about compliance rules, but if there's a missing role in the company doing this, let's say for the products, then we maybe should fix this rule first. So I think these two things need to happen in parallel. On the one hand, to make the foundation. On the other hand, to ask ourselves what AI technology is out there, and then go in a meaningful way together that makes sense and that we move forward.
Very well.
Add one point to that. Yes. I think often there's a fear out there. AI is changing everything, and expecting a big bang and everything changes. I think that's not the way AI will triple into our business. I think it will be small steps and change, and maybe results, as you said. I used it myself and I saw this Mr. Deer created as a Van Gogh. Wow, maybe I can use it elsewhere. So let's create small use cases which are beneficial. Each one, you try it out, and then you will raise it stepwise. I think, don't think about big bang. Think about how to stepwise make the most benefit out of it.
Definitely. Means I think, so the key takeaway I take from this is, I think we need to not be afraid of AI. Plus, it is not a one shop, like everything together, because that's how somehow a lot of people have fear that it will overtake. It is coexistence, and it has to be managed because AI cannot just do everything on their own. That's something. And second takeaway, key takeaway, Henrik, there is a lot of pressure on you now. I think the deer and this story is really, really popular. You need to know.
They are still alive next year. What they're doing.
This is really, really meaningful thing. Henrik, I'll come to you for a question now. As the Configit CSO hat, where do you see the configuration lifecycle management solutions evolving with AI? So how do they integrate AI into that? What can they do to expedite the adoption of AI in this space? What do you see?
Yeah, so I don't have a simple answer to that.
I know.
Because I think the world is learning what this can do for us now with the breakthroughs. But we are very eager to find ways that will ease the adoption of CLM, because we strongly believe in if you do this kind of thinking, you implement your systems around that kind of thinking, and you get efficient companies that create value for the customers and themselves. So we're eager to find ways to ease that. And if there's a product development that will make it easier to go through the change management or get easier to get started on it, we would be eager to do that. But that happens in cooperation with our partners and our customers. That's how we learn and how we know that what's going to work. And we're eager to try out experiments, because there will be experiments in this AI. And on the fear part of AI replacing us, I heard somebody saying, well, you shouldn't fear AI replacing you. You should fear you being replaced by somebody who figured out how to use AI. Mm-hmm. And I think actually that's well said, because I think that's what the future is going to look like. So we all need software vendors, advisors, manufacturing companies to figure out how can this help us in the future to be more competitive, more efficient. If we don't figure it out, somebody else is going to do it.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And that's sort of in the back of my head all the time, and that's how we are thinking about the strategy in Configit. We want to figure out how can this smoothen the journey on CLM in the future. So
I'm glad to hear that. So I can see that Configit is taking the CLM in the right direction with the right approach. I guess we had a lot of questions. Maybe I'll just ask one more question before we move to a bit lighter section. So Jan, coming to you, how do you suggest to approach organizations as part of your consulting role? If you approach a customer who wants to go on CLM journey, and probably they have heard a lot of about AI, like I want everything with AI and all. So what is your recommendation? How should we approach that kind of discussion?
Good question. I think first of all, step back. Don't think it, as I said, as an IT project. You just buy a software, engage, configure it, and then let's go. Then someone will do it and manage the data somehow. Apply an AI that will sort out your stuff, which you build up in the past 30 years, and it's going to work. It will not work. I think the first step you need to do is to really get management on board, get the vision clear. Where are you going? Are you looking for efficiency improvement? Are you want to be better, faster? You want to serve your customer better? You want to improve in quality? So what's the idea of CLM? What do you want to reach? And from there, spread the word to the team, and then work out the use cases. And identify where you can improve, where you start out. Again, not the big bang approach.
Yes.
Also in CLM, start successfully, build small lighthouse towers, and onboard everything. Ooh, that's really working out. I want to be part of that train. And that's how you spread this approach within the organization. Then, of course, you can sneak in the AI use cases. Really identify the different steps that you're performing, where you have efficiency gaps, and then look if AI can help you in those aspects.
The roadmap, basically define the roadmap,
exactly,
step by step, because instead of that.
And don't see it as a sprint that you will finish within 3 months.
2 weeks sprints or 4 weeks
it
sprints.
will take a while, and
Yes.
and it's not the content that will take most of the time, but the organization to get the brains aligned.
Perfectly well summarized.
Yeah,
So
I might comment on that.
Yes.
I've seen a couple of different ways to start along the lines you explained, Jan, that has been successful. So sometimes it's because a company needs to launch a new product.
Yeah.
And it has some new complexities or something, so the old system won't be able to do it. So everybody agrees we need to do something new. And then you might have a better time getting people on board to try something new because they know otherwise they're not going to get this product to market.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the lighthouse. That's going to be the first thing they try, see the success, and then everybody feels more comfortable doing more and take the old. So that's one thing I've seen working. The other is, you could say, looking for somebody who is an early adopter in the organization, who is prepared to stick his head forward or her head forward without everybody backing up because they believe in it, and then show the way. And we have a customer of one of the CLM Summits who explained exactly how he did that. He just looked around, he knew they had to do something because it didn't work any longer the way they sold their products, come too complex, but people were a little bit scared of trying this new thing out, but finally he found one. So he did in that business unit and made sure it was a success. And then when he had to move on to phase 2, it was not difficult to find volunteers to get him on the journey. So it's exactly the approach I hear you're talking about. You need buy-in high up to really make the difference. And there could be different ways where you could start and show that this is doable and then scale up from that. That's safer. Whether you use AI or not, it's sort of a general advice. Let's do it like that. And I don't think the use of AI is going to change that approach to doing stuff. It might accelerate some things or give new opportunities, but it could still be a good way to get going on the activities.
That's what you say is really totally right. So what I learned really when I was writing with 2 colleagues this book was that often we really think AI will solve all the problems.
yes,
So we think if we have AI, we don't need to understand where we are. We don't need to make maturity assessments because very often an organization is very different. Like in my organization, I have plants which are really very, let's say, a little bit more old-fashioned. They do good things, but they are also a little bit remote areas, like in Ivory Coast or like in Sri Lanka. So they really have good processes, but very manual because it's an agricultural product. So that's totally different compared to a plant for high-tech equipment in Canada. So if we speak about the organization we have a lot of different facets, and then also, as you say. But it's really often forgotten if I have a new technology and I try to create value, I should do a proper project plan and should just execute project management because the best technology will not help me if I don't do the standard things. But they are very often forgotten, and we think that now because it's called AI, it's like magic and it will happen, but it will not.
very well said. So if I try to summarize, I think if you have a hammer in hand, you will always look nail. And somehow that's what right now people are looking at AI. Like, oh, you have a question, AI is the answer, even without listening to the question. So I think the key takeaway is we need to take AI as an enabler, but it's not everything. It's not encompassing all. So we need to break it into pieces. It does not replaces the due diligence, the other activities which has to be done by the organization, whether it is in terms of the data, change management, roadmap definition, those things are very valid.
Exactly.
AI can augment to that. It cannot replace that. It's not that you just type, build a configuration lifecycle management system for me, it will do. So that's something which needs to be taken into account. And completely agree with you, Henrik, that there is nothing more infectious than success. So if you get a success, have a lighthouse, I think then you can really create the path for journey, the successful journey in the organization. That's the way I see. So thanks a lot for really enriching discussion. I really appreciate, and I do hope all the participants who joined, they really enjoyed this conversation and have some good learnings. Thanks a lot for joining, and at this point we will stop here. Hand it over back to you, Shahid.